And for more, we are joined tonight by two valued members of our on-air family. Baratunde Thurston, author, activist, comedian, former producer for The Daily Show. He is now the host of the podcast How to Citizen. He's also hosting the upcoming PBS series America Outdoors with Baratunde Thurston. And Bill Kristol is back with us, author, writer, thinker, Politico, veteran of the Reagan and Bush administrations, and the editor-at-large over at The Bulwark. Gentlemen, I've been looking forward to this. Welcome to you both. Bill, is this a modern-day low point, 1-6 included, for the Republican Party? And if not, where's the floor?
I think this could well be the low point. I hope it's a turning point. Liz Cheney gave a really quite remarkable speech on the floor of the House tonight, very much worth not just watching and listening to, but reading and rereading, and a real call to arms. I mean, most of the speeches given by against Trump by Republicans have been given with a tone of resignation or sort of philosophical despair, or what can be done, or I'm giving this speech for the ages. Liz Cheney's speech is a call to action. She says we must act, we have a duty to act, we cannot. And it's a forward-looking speech. You know, it's not just a lament that Trump did this or didn't do that. It says going forward, if this is allowed, this is a threat to democracy, the rule of law, and to a party that should be a party dedicated to freedom and to the Constitution. So I think it's she's throwing down the gauntlet. She's saying that she's in the fight. She'll be deposed from the House Republican leadership tomorrow, but I think she's in this fight for months and years to come.
Well, what becomes of her? Talk about what you think and perhaps what you know about her immediate future beyond, say, finishing out a term in the House of Representatives, assuming she's primaried back home in Wyoming.
I mean, she will be primaried, and she'll fight that fight, I believe. I think after what she said tonight, it's hard to see how she doesn't take leadership of the movement to liberate the Republican Party from Trump. That's a small movement right now. She and Adam Kinzinger are fighting the good fight, a dynamic duo, almost alone in the House Republican Conference. And really shocking, I'm never shocked anymore, but shocking how colleagues and close friends of Liz Cheney, people who've worked with her and agree with her, won't even say they'll vote with her tomorrow. But she'll continue the fight. I think she's the logical outcome of the speech tonight is to run for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024 and really put it to the test whether this party can be saved from not just Trump personally, but from Trumpism and from contempt for the rule of law and from a dedication going forward, apparently, to using any means to overturn a fair and legitimate election. So I think Liz Cheney has made herself the leader of the non-Trump, anti-Trump forces in the Republican Party. And as I say, not just for tomorrow and not just for internal maneuverings in the House of Representatives, but she's sounding like a Ronald Reagan or a Margaret Thatcher. We'll see if others rally to her.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first, and you heard it from Bill Kristol. Baratunde, over to you. Congressman Kinzinger tonight said that Leader McCarthy talks as if he is an employee of Donald Trump. Indeed, when Congresswoman Cheney gave her remarks, there was only one other Republican member in the well of the House of Representatives. Give us a reality check, Baratunde, how far we've gone off plumb, how far from normal.
Brian, Bill, it's good to be back with you, my favorites, my B team. And I only wish we could gather to celebrate being vaccinated or eating fresh fruit or anything that's worth feeling good about in life. But we always seem to come back here on the precipice of a flailing democracy, on the precipice of something that feels like civil war. So I'm sad about that, and I'm tired of this. It is frightening to see how many people are willing to embrace lies when those lies lead to power. And that's what we're looking at here. There's so many people who have co-signed on this undermining of our democracy. I'm still not over January 6, 2021, Brian. Thousands of people stormed our democracy, spilt blood, and stained our U.S. Capitol. And many Republicans voted right after that not to certify the election, further putting a stain on that Capitol and on our democracy. There's a lot I don't agree with Representative Cheney about, but I applaud her courage, something that has been lacking so much in this party, which says it loves freedom, but lashes itself to a weak and cowardly man who raves from his own property against the Constitution they claim to believe in. So kudos to Representative Cheney and anybody else in that Republican Party, because a lot of us been out here fighting. A lot of us been out here standing up for this America. The rest need to do so. This is not a drill, and this is not over.
I think I'll choose that moment to take a break, to tell our audience our guests are staying with us, and to tell you that coming up, it's a question I've been asking our guests over these past few days. Does the shorthand news media phrase, the big lie, actually serve to diminish the danger to our democracy right now? Our friends, Baratunde and Bill, will weigh in on that when we come back.
I feel it's okay to go ahead and express what you feel is right to express. And, you know, cancel culture is cancel culture, no matter how you look at it. And unfortunately, I think there are those that are trying to silence others in the party.
Well, there it is, a rare defense of Congresswoman Liz Cheney today from a fellow Republican, albeit one in the Senate, using the GOP's cancel culture mantra of late against the party. Still with us, Baratunde Thurston and Bill Kristol. Baratunde, I kind of telegraphed this next question going into the break, but it's real and legitimate, and I will be the first to admit I've used the expression big lie, I think, twice already this hour. Do we shorthand what happened on 1/6 because we in the news media always need phraseology? We need a quip, a shorthand appellation for things. By calling it the big lie, would we be better served with some variation of the violent insurrection that was intended to reverse a democratic election?
Back when September 11, 2001 befell all of us, we had a lot of language, a lot of big flashy graphics and banners in red, white, and blue. Attack on America. That's what this was. And that's what it still is. When you take a sledgehammer to the pillars of the Constitution, when you deny the power of we, the people, to choose our own government by trying to discard thousands, if not millions of votes, when you undermine faith in the structure in a country that's held together by faith, by documents, much more than land or ethnicity, that's an attack. I don't have any objection to the language of the big lie, but I think this has been and continues to be an ongoing attack on our democracy. And I return to this Republican Party, which has wrapped itself historically in the language of freedom, and yet attaches itself to a weak figure, subserves itself to one man in an authoritarian fashion. That is the opposite of freedom. And living in a lie is the opposite of freedom.
By the way, Baratunde, to your very point, attack on America became softened jargon. We love to do that. It became the events of 9/11. A whole lot of commercials right now talk about during these difficult times when they could just mention an uncontrolled pandemic for 14 months. And indeed, big lie is cheaper and easier for folks in our line of work to say than it is the violent insurrection attempt to overturn a democratic election.
I agree. And I just, when we think about people who almost literally co-signed on that attack, if we rewind to January 6th and we saw the footage and we saw the smoke and we didn't even know the death toll yet, but we knew this was horrific. And for the people whose very lives were threatened, whose vice president was almost lynched, to go in there and say this election was a sham, that's co-signing on an attack. That's aiding and abetting the enemy. That's that kind of language that we use against brown people all over the world in the history of colonialism, but are unafraid to use it when it's senators from a party that's lashed itself to whiteness or representatives doing the same. But it doesn't make it any less devastating.
Well put, and I'm glad I asked. Bill Kristol, Reuters reporting, NBC News confirming. I'm reading this to you. A growing number of anti-Trump Republicans, over 100 at last count, are signing on to a movement to create a third party if the GOP doesn't let go of its unwavering Trump loyalty. This will be about the 15th time I've asked you some version of this question, Bill. If they were given sodium pentothal and a polygraph and were waterboarded, how many elected Republicans in Washington would secretly say, Liz Cheney is actually my brand of Republican?
You know, I don't know, but I really want to emphasize a point Baratunde makes, so important. It was an attack. It is an attack. It's an ongoing attack. The attack has deepened in certain ways. The party has seen the consequences of Trump's lie from November 3rd until January 6th, has decided that's fine. Not only are we not repudiating it, we're not apologizing for it, we're embracing it going forward, and we're preparing to lay the groundwork to do it again in 2024. That's what's so serious about this moment, I think. And that's why I think, Brian, your point about it, I hadn't really thought about it. The big lie, it's a little misleading. It could be misleading in the sense that you do something bad, you lie about it. If you're a kid, maybe, you try to get away with it, and then maybe you don't do it again. But that's not what the Republican Party is doing. It's not just that they're not owning up to something they did. They're laying the groundwork for continuing to do it and doing it in the future. That's Liz Cheney's point in her speech. And that's why it is, as Baratunde says, such a dangerous moment, I think. It's such an important moment for Liz Cheney to speak up and Adam Kinzinger and other Republicans to say this isn't enough. How it works out, whether they can save the Republican Party, form a third party, join the Democratic Party, that's another question. But this can't be permitted. This is what the real danger is here. It's not just, the historical record needs to be set straight. That is a bit of a misreading of what's really at stake. It's an ongoing attack on our democracy and on our Constitution.
Yeah, I don't speak for any industry beyond our 1 hour of television time each night, but I fear the big lie has become our F7 key, easy jargon, perhaps too cute by half when you re-examine, as we just have, what we're actually talking about. To our guests, our great thanks, as always, Baratunde Thurston, Bill Kristol. Of course, we will do this again. Thank you very much for staying up with us tonight.